challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
At the dawn of another week and another opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, even global issues and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're going to start our conversation looking at the latest development in India. We're talking about the $100 billion investment with Switzerland and Norway. These are part of the things we're going to talk about today. Don't forget, it's your program. You can be part of this conversation. All you just have to do is to go on our social media platform, on our YouTube page, using the hashtag Early Exchange. You know, Early Exchange is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. That means your voice needs to be heard. I'm not alone. Blessing is here to also give you the best of programming. Blessing, how are you today?
I'm good. Good morning, Femi.
You look radiant.
Yes, I'm not affected by what happened yesterday.
Oh, interesting.
Because when brothers play...
The elephants succeeded in caging the eagles.
When brothers play together, you can't see there's victor or there's vanquished. Please blink when I say that. It's consolation. At least we didn't return empty. The Super Eagles will be returning with a silver cup. Congratulations to the Super Eagles. Some went there and then they went back to their home country with nothing. So there is something to celebrate. Let's look on the bright side of things. And so this morning we will be looking at what's bright for India and what are the lessons to learn for other countries of the world. First, let's get to the news studio with Grace Komolafe. Hello, Grace.
Hello and welcome to News Update on Souq News. I am Grace Komolafe. The Nigerian National Assembly is pursuing some legal frameworks aimed at dismantling the Nigerian Navy's monopoly over policing the nation's blue water and deep sea territories, which house crucial economic assets in the oil and gas sectors. This initiative seeks to integrate private security firms into the task of safeguarding these assets. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Upstream, Honorable Al-Hassan Ado Dogua, revealed this intent during a recent inspection of impounded oil bunkering vessels. The delegation, comprised of federal lawmakers and officials, lauded the efforts of private sector outfits in collaboration with government security agencies. Dogua stressed the House's commitment to supporting and empowering such private security entities to combat oil theft and vandalism effectively, extending their operational jurisdiction beyond shallow waters to deep sea and high seas. Moving on, despite the Central Bank of Nigeria's effort to boost the forex supply through various policies, the Nigerian naira closed the week stronger against the dollar at 1,469.97 naira per dollar in the official market, marking a 0.71% appreciation. This contrasts with the ongoing demand pressure that have been eroding the currency's value. Notably, forex turnover decreased by 21% to $253.77 million in the parallel markets. The naira also appreciated marginally to 1,485 naira per dollar. Demand for dollars remains high, attributed to businesses replenishing inventories and individuals seeking funds for education abroad, among other factors. Market analysts speculate on the potentials for market-driven exchange rate mechanism following recent CBN reforms, including the removal of caps on international money transfer and adjustment to interbank forex transactions. Away from that, Indonesia has cancelled its plan to purchase $790 million worth of Mirage 2005 fighter jets previously used by Qatar. The decision to cancel the deal was confirmed by spokesperson Daniel Anza Semanjuntak, who stated that while the purchase was initially planned, there is no active contact. Last month, the minister attributed the delay in the deal to fiscal constraints and announced plans to retrofit existing Souq and F-16 aircraft instead. The proposal sparked controversies last year, with lawmakers expressing concerns about the age of the second-hand jet. Despite criticism, Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto defended the purchase during presidential debates, arguing that the jets remained viable for another 15 years and were essential while awaiting new aircraft arrivals. And now in Zealand, New Zealand's Apex Bank Governor Adrian Orr has stressed the need for a restrictive monetary policy stance to slow inflation down to around 2%, maintaining the official cash rate at 5.5%. While speaking at a parliamentary committee meeting, he maintained that the current rate of 4.7% has been too high and noted that with inflation easing slightly since November and market expectation of interest rate cuts diminishing, the bank is set to reconvene at month-end to review its stance. Having withdrawn pandemic-era stimulus earlier and increased rates by 525 basis points since October 2021, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand aims to rein in inflation, which exceeds its target band of 1% to 3%. Deputy Governor Kristen Hawkesby confirmed the financial system's strength and consumers' ability to withstand high interest rates, though concerns persist about some households struggling with debt. And lastly, Elon Musk's Neuralink, the brain chip implant company, has relocated its incorporation from Delaware to Nevada, as reported by state business portals. This move follows Musk's announcement about Tesla's intention to transfer its state of incorporation to Texas from Delaware, prompted by the judge's invalidation of his $56 billion pay package. Legal experts caution that the transition for Tesla may encounter obstacles, including potential investor lawsuits, especially if perceived as a strategy to safeguard Musk's compensation package. Meanwhile, Musk disclosed last week that Neuralink successfully implanted its first brain chip in a human patient who is reportedly recovering well. And that's it this morning on News Updates. Please stay as we return to Femi Ayodele and Blessing Eichi for more. Many thanks for watching. I am Grace Komalafe. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you, Grace, for doing what you know best, which is to give us news update, and you've actually done that this morning to set the ball rolling. We're going to start our conversation looking at the latest development in India, looking at the economic investment and the trade agreement that is about to be finalized between India and some European countries. You call them the European Free Trade Association, to the tune of $100 billion. And that agreement will last for the next 15 years. What will be the impact of this on the Nigeria economy? And that's what, on the India economy rather. And that's what our guests will expand and provide perspective about it. We have been joined by our in-house analyst. We have Sam Oruoje. Glad you have joined us. Good morning.
Good morning, Femi. A pleasure to be here.
Good morning.
Good morning, Blessing. And thank you.
You look good and classic. You seem not to be affected by what happened yesterday. Do you follow sport?
I do.
Okay, so what's your take on that?
I think that has been dusted yesterday, but regrettably that we didn't win. But I think the team that played the best deserve to win, even though we have emotional attachment to our own player. But that's given. That has been. But then at least we got to some level of.
So we have something to celebrate.
Celebrate as well. So,
right.
But the learning lessons, those are what is critical for the sport authority to build upon, in my view.
Nigerians are resilient people, so no wonder that he's looking bright this morning and moving ahead.
Interesting. Yeah. All right, let's get back to the main conversation, which is to look at the trade investment between India and some European nations to the tune of $100 billion. The projection is that this agreement is going to create about 1 million jobs. What's your quick reaction to this? Give us a background to this, and what do you think would be the impact of this to the economy of India?
Okay, Modi's government has been very up and doing when it talked about international cooperations and development. This recent one between the European Free Trade Association to the tune of about $100 million is to fast track India's economic growth and development, particularly on digital infrastructure for the next 15 years. I think that will open up the development space in India, particularly on that digital infrastructure, which is a major imperative for this loan arrangement from Switzerland in particular. So I think beyond that, you're equally going to have a kind of backward integration from that investment. The rate of employment will improve tremendously. So we must salute Modi's government for having this initiative. But this loan is not going to just come once. It's going to come in tranches, and it will aid economic growth and development of India for the next 15 years. And those who are providing the loan will equally benefit, because there are certain exchanges in terms of that trade agreement that has just been brokered between the European Free Trade Association.
All right, so the European Free Trade Association, this trade deal spearheaded by Switzerland with India. Now, what do you think has been the attraction for the EFTA to India?
One, India have the human capital in terms of the digital infrastructure, which is one of the trade package. Then India has the required skill set for that sector. So I'm sure that will have been the motivating factor for that association to want to put investment in India, in my view.
Now, looking at the population of India, which is over 1 billion, it's also strategic. Do you consider it something necessary to have this kind of trade deal? And then what would be the impact of this on the growth of India, looking at the economy? The GDP it's about $4 trillion. And what do you expect will come out of this deal? Perhaps not in the next 15 years, but since this is going to be in tranches, let's say in the next 5 or 10 years.
No, I think the Indian government was very open when they went into this negotiation, that this is to strengthen their economic growth and development, and particularly they want to do part of that investment in digital infrastructure. So to that extent, the market is there, the technical infrastructure is there. So once this trade collaboration comes through, it will impact positively in terms of economic development of India, which is the main reason that this facility is taken from the European Free Trade Association in Switzerland.
So this arrangement will also permit professionals from India to move to Europe. Now, what do you think is going to be the benefit for the European countries that are in this investment with India?
There will be transfer of skills. There will be transfer of manpower. Then to that extent, that will improve on the social standing and economic standing of India from the perspective of this new investment that is coming in. And I do know for sure that with the kind of leadership Modi has been providing in recent time, even though with some controversy, this will quickly come to speed to improve on the economic growth of India.
Now, if you look at the labor force in India, you have more of them in agric, sector and in service sector. Do you think, as a strategist, that the president or the prime minister should think of that sector with this kind of investment? Should look at the agric and the service sector, since that constitutes the bulk of the labor force in India?
Yeah, if you look at the full document, to a large extent, there are various sectors that are targeted with that 100 billion investment. But I think the major focus, maybe from the first tranche of disbursement, is looking at the digital infrastructure, which India has a comparative advantage of. So that extent, where this financial inflow from Europe gets into India, that will improve on the infrastructure. The market is there, and that exchange of ideas and knowledge and skill sets between the European Union, so to speak now, and that of India, that will improve on the existing trade and bilateral relationship that exists, and to be a win-win situation for both countries that are involved in that agreement.
Recent, India has been attracting lots of foreign direct investment from other countries. So why do you think India has become the sweetheart of many nations where they want to put their money?
Well, the population is there, number one. Number two, to a very large extent, the government has been stable over a period of time. So if you look at those parameters for those who want to invest, once there's a stable economy and they can repatriate their fund, the tax regime is equally okay, and the government in recent years has captured the data of Indians. So to that extent, people can do some market trends and they see how their investment can come back quickly. And I think that is one of the attractions to India.
Now, there are two parties involved here. You have India talking about this trade agreement and European Free Trade Associations. What could likely be the interest of European Free Trade Association here? Because as we speak, India is not a member, and then they're being considered as a partner in this kind of agreement. So for the European Free Trade Associations, what will be the interest here?
For them to lend a hand in terms of financial service to India, they will have done what they are called financial due diligence. So the investment is safe, and this will provide an impetus for them eventually to join that European Free Trade Association, which is a trade collaboration between those associations in Europe and that of India. So I think, like I mentioned earlier, it will improve on the investment climate in India. There will be exchange of ideas and resources beyond even finances that will sustain the economic growth of India, for which that agreement was meant to serve in the first instance.
Now, it is reported that this trade deal will also ensure market access for some agricultural projects. Usually when trades like this, trade deals like this are done in Asia, the location or the first point of call will be China. Now, the move to India and even the market access to agricultural projects, what do you think is going to create in Asia?
No, I don't think it will create any problem.
Not problem.
Yeah.
Like in terms of development, how does it position Asia?
No, India in particular. Asia is already a destination, but then when you talk about positioning vis-a-vis the European Free Trade Association, that would benefit from that agreement in terms of having access to agro-industry in India. Therefore, that will improve on the trade relationship between them. So that will sustain the market in India where they are able to export their commodities to Europe, so which will benefit them. On the other hand, you have a finance inflow into India from Europe that will be able to help them to expand their market. So like I mentioned in the previous conversation, that will provide a win-win situation for those who are partnering in terms of that agreement.
All right, it's time for us to go on a break now. We'll be right back shortly to discuss more. Stay with us.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Mase Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked to CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history. An important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeliji-Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq enlightenment.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, if you're just joining us, you have no cause to worry. We got you covered. We're still shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation, looking at the latest development as regards India, looking at the trade deal agreement between that country and the Free Trade Association, the European Free Trade Association. We still have an in-house guest with us, Sam Oruwoje is still here with us. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Glad to know you're still here with us.
Thank you.
Now let's expand this conversation, provide some background as regards the characteristics of the economy of India. India has a GDP of about $3.7 trillion, and then you have the service sector contributes about 50% to that GDP. Why do you think the service sector is very crucial to the economy of India and having that kind of significant impact on the GDP?
All right, generally service contributes a great deal to economic activity of any nation. So if you look at the size of India, the population in itself, when you have about 50% contributing to that, that just gives you an insight into the way India is configured. But then what is important is that India has made some tremendous strides in terms of the way they've developed the ICT infrastructure, which is essentially a service sector. India has exported more than any country in the world ICT technology across the globe. If you look at the global companies, the top 20 global companies, about 18 of them are headed by India, particularly ICT companies. So service sector is one of the major mainstay of the India economy, and that will continue to drive economic growth and development in that country, particularly in terms of export, and people will always come in because of that stride that they have made in the ICT sector.
So the Indian economy is also agro-based, and this $100 billion trade deal that India is about closing with the EFTA is going to focus on already existing manufacturing projects and new ones. So what do you think it will be in that direction, since it's also an agro-based nation? Are we going to see more of more food processing, manufacturing, and all of that?
Yes, I think the loan will scale up small and medium enterprise and core manufacturing. In that agreement, remember that the European Free Trade Association is equally targeting the market, so that once that agro sector is developed, the labor is there, cheap labor, so to speak, is there. So they are able to export some of those finished items into Europe. like we mentioned earlier, that we enhance the relationship further. So the market is there, then India itself will be able to export some of those commodities which they have core competence into the European market.
It's also interesting to know that, India is also the hub when it comes to medical tourism. Even Africans, Nigerians, you see them going to India for surgeries, and maybe they feel they can get the best of service. But why do you think that has played a strategic role in the development of the economy of India?
It's as a result of massive investment in education, particularly STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. India has a big reservoir of science, technology, and engineering, mathematics. I recall in my days in the college, about 80% of the teaching force in my college were Indians, science teachers, geography teacher, even up to literature teacher were Indians. So they have that skill set which they have invested so much in. So that in the long run has benefited the country in terms of human capacity development, which to a very large extent has improved in terms of what they export and why people believe in that market.
All right. Like I said earlier, India has been the sweetheart of many nations, but currently the Secretary General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations is visiting India. It's going to be a 5 to 6 day visit, and this is the first visit since assuming office. What do you think are going to be the thrust of this visit?
Okay, Kao Kim Houghton, the Secretary General that came into office January last year, this is his first visit to India. I think the visit is as a result of the collaboration of that union with a view to see how they can fine-tune the relationship with India to upscale trade and investment relationship. Just like the discussion we made earlier, we talked about earlier, is one of the strategic move to see how they can consolidate the relationship within the Asian nation.
Let's still revisit the issue of the population of India, because the idea of this conversation is to have an overview of what is going on for India, and then lessons for other nations. Now, if you look at the population, would you say it has been significantly be a blessing or a barrier? What are the challenges that have been posed by having that kind of population, the largest in the world, over 1 billion?
Yeah, from economic perspective, I don't think it's a barrier. It's a huge market, just like the conversation we've been making around Africa, which is over 1 billion in terms of population. But the 54 African nations have not been able to consolidate on the population for the benefit of trade. So on the other hand, India's population is a big plus for them in terms of market, in terms of labor. So those large population will be able to sustain the economic activities that will sustain economic growth and development.
All right, back to the visit of the ASEA and Secretary General to India. What impact will it have on the region?
No, I think the Secretary General is just visiting the countries that make up the association to be able to see how they can galvanize trade and investment opportunity within that region and strengthen the collaboration that already exists, particularly bilateral and multilateral relationship that exists among the nations that make up that association.
All right, now if we're to make a comparison between what the Secretary General is doing and, like you said, is to foster collaboration in terms of trade and cooperation in that region. Let's look at the West African region, ECOWAS. Do you think that some type of doing something similar like that would in any way, particularly at this point, help the relationship between West African countries, just like the Southeast Asian nations are doing?
The founding fathers of ECOWAS in 1975-76, their intention was to see how we can strengthen the relationship within the sub-region, how we can take advantage of free trade, free movement of people. But over time, the politics of the individual countries that make up the economic community leave much to be desired, particularly where you have strong men without strong institutions. It has become a major challenge. Therefore, if you look at the breakaway of about 3 countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger recently to form another small economic union called the Sahel Union. I think the leaders within the economic community must see how they can look at the agreements that were reached at the founding of the economic community and how to strengthen that free movement and free trade that can benefit the country. But as we speak, if you look at the configuration of the members of that community into Francophone, Anglophone, Lusophone, and all that, this political underpinning based on the colonial heritage has become a major challenge. You'll be talking about a common currency. They have an agreement to have the Lagos Cotonou corridor in terms of road infrastructure. You talk about the gas infrastructure. As we speak, some of those promissory notes that were made has not come to fruition. To that extent, is a major challenge for the development of that economic community, the union. I don't know how far we can sustain where in the last how many years of its existence, about 4 countries, including Mauritania, who left earlier, has reduced the number of, so it's weakening politically. To what extent they can sustain that remain to be seen in the nearest future.
Now, looking at the success story of the achievements recorded by India and when it comes to the issue of the economy, is the 6th largest economy in the world, and looking at the population, how they've been able to manage that population, what are the lessons here for African countries in respect to the issue of management of their population? Nigeria is an example, you know, and also looking at the management of the economy. Now they are the 6th largest in the world.
All right, the first lesson we can take as Africa, particularly Nigeria, is the concept of democracy and good governance. India, in the last how many years, has shown the world that democracy can survive beyond Western democracies. So that's the first lesson. So good governance is very essential for Africa. Number 2, they took advantage of their population. Africa, therefore, must take advantage of its 1 billion population so that they can trade among themselves. And on the other hand, we must make massive investment in human capital, particularly on the ICT sector, by government supporting STEM education. That has been the major heritage that India has bequeathed to its own society. So if we're able to look at this and the ability to repatriate your fund, your investment from India, they have a good investment package that those who bring their investment to India, they're able to take their investment out as at when due. So as Africans, good governance is very essential, investment in education and human capacity, and then your ability to be able to have what you call ease of doing business will become a very good imperative for Africa to bring more investment.
Now, in the aspect of agriculture, which India has also given prominence in their economy, what do you think Nigeria can learn from there?
I think more in terms of mechanized farming and access to credit. India has a massive investment in the agro sector, where they put so much money in mechanized farming. Then access to credit is relatively better. So those are the lessons that we can take from India. But then we must provide the ecosystem in terms of ease of doing business, so that when people bring their investment here, they can always sustain those investments, and when there's a need to repatriate their fund, then they can repatriate their fund. And look at the challenge that the air transport business is facing in Nigeria, where monies are tied down here, and the government is not able to repatriate some millions of dollars back to those who are bringing their aircraft into Nigeria. That's not too good for investment.
You know, like we said earlier, most Nigerians travel to India for medical tourism. So what kind of partnership would you expect between India and Nigeria in that regard? I know fully well that most of the pharmaceutical products here are also being produced there, the raw materials and some of the drugs that we consume here. Now, what kind of comparative advantage would that bring to Nigeria, especially in the area of health and tourism, if there is a proper partnership in this regard?
I think as we speak, there's a great relationship in terms of pharmaceutical relationship between India and Nigeria. Most of the pharmaceutical companies in Nigeria already have existing partnerships. So if you buy a particular medicine, you see a Nigerian brand name, and you see an Indian brand name. So there's a collaboration in that sector. But I think we need to scale up by the Indian company coming here to invest, because this is one of the biggest market when it comes to medical and pharmaceutical services. So they should bring their investment directly, rather than this partnership where you manufacture those drugs, what you just do, manufacture in India, but marketed by XYZ company in India. So the government should look in that direction. The India-African partnership, some other African countries are benefiting more than Nigeria. So the government must find a way to strengthen that relationship. There are other sectors in terms of, I know India has a very big ICT sector in Malawi, which is supposed to have been in Nigeria. So we need to find a way that will strengthen the India-Nigerian trade relationship, then the bilateral relationship, even the multilateral relationship that exists between those countries can be strengthened. But in terms of medical tourism, just like the pharmaceuticals, we need to find a way to bring the medical practice here as well, so that we can develop a system and benefit from their own medical competencies in Nigeria. I recall some years ago, one of the biggest hospitals, I won't mention the name because of advertising purpose, wanted to make some massive investment. But then the challenge they had, the regulatory framework in terms of double taxation has stalled that investment in Nigeria. So the current government should find a way to look back into that relationship, so that we can benefit massively from Indians' key competencies in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
All right, in a time where there are global issues with supply chain owed to the act of terrorism around the Suez Canal. Now, the Secretary General of the Southeast Asian nation visiting India. Now, in regards to the Indo-Pacific region, do you think there will be talks regarding strengthening those around the region to aid supply chain?
I think there are already talks in that regard, because once you are not able to police that maritime way, it will affect the volume of trade between Asian countries generally and other countries of the world. I do know there are serious talk between the government of those countries with a view to finding a way to reduce, number one, sea piracy, maritime threat, and the core issues of supply chain that were occasioned by the COVID-19 issues. But But then, for the government to be able to sustain the economic relationship, particularly trade relationship, then the waterways must be free of pirates and even terrorists. So I think it's an ongoing discussion in international trade. Even the World Trade Organization has been clamoring for how the Pacific way can be made safer for maritime transportation.
I did a research recently and I found out that India is also making wave when it comes to natural medicine, not just herbal medicine. Not apart from the records, being as as regards orthodox medicine, but when it comes to natural medicine, they are also doing a lot of researches in that area, making waves. What do you think should also be the lesson for Nigeria, looking at herbal medicine or natural medicine? The emphasis now is on natural medicine.
I think one of my argument and conversation elsewhere, even in this station, I'm a firm believer on that for us to do well as a nation or as a continent, we must look inward. This Western propaganda that has put African down in terms of their natural endowment must be revisited by the leadership and us as a people. So natural medicine, I was in a conference sometime in the past in Ghana, where even one of the professors from Johns Hopkins University, United States of America, was saying that no matter the level of investment that the West will make in the medicine, they cannot keep pace with Japan, China, and possibly India in terms of natural medicine. By the same token, Africa must invest in natural medicine, and this connotation of herbal concoction, to what extent do you measure? NAFDAC is there, so you provide the standardization like what they are doing elsewhere. You can standardize those products, go through clinical trials like they do elsewhere, so that these medicines can be made available. I'm a strong believer on natural products, natural food, organic food. So we must sustain this conversation so that we can look inward. That will reduce the pressure on the foreign exchange market as well.
Now, India is not also a force to reckon with when it comes to natural medicine. In terms of orthodox medicine too, it's also recognized because some medical practitioners for specialized cases are either brought from India or taken from India to other countries, or people even go there for certain procedures that are very expensive to have handled in other parts of the world. And if you look at the importation of drugs, there seems to be a lot of orthodox medicine coming into Nigeria from India. Now, what can African countries, or even Nigeria to speak specifically, what kind of partnership can they come into to benefit from India's advancement in medicine?
Like I mentioned earlier, is that there's a big collaboration between African companies, particularly Nigerian pharmaceutical company, that have partnership in terms of a co-manufacturing arrangement and a marketing arrangement for bringing those drugs. But if I understand your question correctly, what you're trying to canvass here is that African should find a way to take advantage of
in terms of partnership.
Yeah, in terms of partnership. And I said earlier that we should bring those companies here rather than just marketing the products that are produced in India. So on the other hand, if we talk about the promotion of natural medicine, rather than taking the concentrates from Nigeria to India, then you manufacture them and bring them as finished product. The government should put a policy in place and a tax incentive for manufacturing companies to take advantage of our natural medicine here. They can come and produce and sell within Nigeria. That will help us greatly.
In the case of Nigeria for natural medicine, do you think it's an issue of acceptance? like natural medicine has not so much be accepted in Nigeria, and so it's not be given the attention it should get, the research that it needs to enable the manufacturing of different medications that can come in the way orthodox medicine come. And that's why we find that the primary product has been exported and then the finished one imported back to Nigeria.
I think the challenge for us as a people and as a country is the way our mind has been wired to believe in Western products. The products are here. People consume those products. People get healed, the consumption of those products. But the big pharmaceutical companies of the West even pay people in the medical schools to find a way to always converse for orthodox medicine at the expense of natural medicine. So once we're able to trick our minds away from this Western imperialism, so to speak, in terms of what we consume, what we believe in, once we're able to believe first and foremost in ourselves as a people, then even as a country or as a government, then this narration will change. Some of those countries, like India, was colonized, even by the British. But then that colonial heritage, in some aspect of India, was not sustainable over time, in terms of their culture, in terms of their language, in terms of even teaching the mathematics, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics were taught in their various language. So, but then what is special about Africa that over time we've not been able to take this colonial cap away in terms of what we patronize, what we consume, even our educational system. So these are the narrative that we must sustain so that we can get a better benefit from what we have. So the research centers are there. The research work are on the shelf. So the government need to find a way to find companies that can take this research finding and put them into manufacturing for the benefits of the average African or Nigerian.
Now, it's better to situate this conversation, properly. We mustn't sound as if everything is rosy for India, because there are two sides to a coin. And the truth is, India is still battling with infrastructural challenges. Would you expect that the Indian authority will take a drastic step in controlling the population? Will that be necessary, looking at the infrastructural deficit and some of the challenges that has been posed by the large population that the country has?
There are moral issues when it talks about population dynamics, population control. There are those who believe that you don't necessarily need to overly control population. There are those who believe that you should control population. But then, if you look at the landmass of India vis-a-vis the population ratio, I think that is not too bad. Effort has been made by successive government to a very large extent to control population. But the challenge of population dynamics is that as you are trying to control population, your population will be aging. And so there are many countries that are already facing that challenge, particularly China. China is now giving incentive for people to have children, because that population control mechanism that was put in place is already hurting the system. So is a very contentious debate when you talk about population control. But with the landmass of India, with the level of development that India has had so far, even though they have some infrastructure challenge, with the relationship they have with the West, and that this new $100 million facility from the European Finance Association, a trade association rather, will help to see how they can scale up their various infrastructure. So, but the government of Modi in the last how many years has done tremendously well, in my view, in terms of improving on the lots of India. So African leaders in particular must take some strategic lessons from the way India has been doing in the past few years. In spite of their challenge, they have some challenges even in terms of religion, some of the things we face even in Nigeria in particular. But in spite of that, they are pulling a greater majority of Indians from the poverty index.
Now, do you think the population of India is part of what is giving it relevance and influence in Asia, particularly in Southeast Asia?
I think so, to a very large extent. The market is there. The population, once you have a large population, then that will be able to sustain manufacturing, services, and other forms of market, even financial services. So is a strength. If you look at the SWOT analysis of the country as a nation, the population is a strength. Then the human capital, just like we have in Nigeria, we have the human capital. So to what extent can we exploit the human capital? And their investment in education has always paid off.
Now, let's paint all the sides. We've been looking at the economic side, but let's also look at the lifestyle of Indians. If you observe critically, you will observe that Indians are naturally conservative. They're not extravagant, and perhaps that informs some of the decisions they make about life. How has that impacted their disposition to value or service?
I think essentially it's about having a deep insight about their culture. The Indian culture has sustained its population. They believe in their religion. They believe in their traditional ways of doing things, in spite of the impact of the West. They didn't throw away their culture. So I think that has been able to sustain their value. To a very large extent, their discipline, they value education. So those are the things that will have sustained them over a period of time. So if we take that lessons for ourselves, so culture is very critical to value, and values are critical to leadership as well.
In terms of relationship with countries, India seems to have good relationship with many countries of the world. What do you think has helped them achieve that?
That again is what we just spoke to earlier. Value, strong value, discipline, and Indians equally like Nigerians who move around the world to do business. So they travel a lot, and they equally are culturalized with local values when they go into any environment to sustain their businesses.
All right, that's today talking about India, the development, and looking at all sides of the country, India. What are the lessons to learn? A lot. First of all, for African countries, make your country hospitable enough for investment and make it easy to do business, and appreciating your own values, as we've seen India do. Many persons didn't even know that India too was colonized by the same colonial master that a lot of countries share, but still they've been able to keep their identity. Thank you very much, Sam Oruji, for the wonderful insight you provided today on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Let's take a quick break. We return. There is more coming on and an exchange.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Juliet Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade. and later under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an Armed Forces Remembrance Cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge, ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Markets, Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana. My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep watching
Souq News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found this truth in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the light different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to Souq News. You don't touch that dial.
There's been a lot of fundraise, especially in the tech environment in Nigeria, and there's every need to be cautious, not to think that the fundraise itself is the end point. It's a means to an end. If the job is 100%, the fundraise is just 20. There's still 80% to go. So what you certainly do not do is to raise funds and shortly thereafter go onto social media and brag about the brand new car you bought or the apartment you've moved into in Banana Island. It doesn't make for good optics. And unfortunately, when you really need the benefit of doubt, you might not get it from your investors. You don't raise money and then ask, so what should I do with the money? At that time, it's too late, you've lost the plot. When you raise money, you would have raised it based on the back of an agreement with your investor, clearly outlining how the money will be spent and how the returns will come. It's imperative to stick to that plan. And if anything changes in the environment or in the business and you have to pivot or there's going to be a significant change, it's imperative to then get the buy-in of the investor. The investors are not philanthropists. This is what we need to understand. They are not giving grants. The investors are astute businessmen who are not necessarily content with the normal rate of returns of placing money in the bank or buying bonds. And that's why they take the risk of putting their funds in a risky venture, such as a startup, which has no track record. What we have to bear in mind is that when the investor gives you any amount of money to invest in the business, come rain or shine, he will typically ask you for 3 times of that in 5 years. So let's do the math. Let's say that I took $1 million as a raise from an investor in, say, 2015, when the dollar was 200 naira per dollar. 5 years on, in 2020, I'll be expected to return to that investor $3 million. $3 million in 2020 at 440 per dollar is about 1.32 billion naira. Now, if you keep the money for longer, then it's even getting more tricky because the exchange rate is falling and you have to do more to pay back. Let's put that figure aside. Bear it in mind, 1.32 billion. If I had approached the bank in 2015 to borrow the same amount of $1 million, at that time it was 200 million naira. So I borrowed 200 million naira. Interest rate is 20%. In 5 years, that's another 200 naira. So what I'll return to the bank will be 200 naira interest plus 200 million naira that I borrowed. I'll be returning 400 million naira. And then compare this in the same period with someone who raised money and has to return 1.32 billion naira. This gives you a sense when I say that raising the money is just the tip of the iceberg. If your business has not reached an inflection point, if your business has not proved this concept, then venture capital money may not necessarily be for you unless there is a match, which means you are earning in the currency that you borrowed in. So you borrowed in dollars and then you are earning in dollars. Or you have what we call a forward contract with a bank to hedge against exchange loss, if it is available. But if not, then you take VC money when you have captured the cost of building the business such that any additional customer is a contribution margin. In that case, it makes sense to scale very quickly because every customer is adding to the bottom line. That is when it makes sense to take the VC money because then they are sharing in the profit and they are helping you to grow the business quickly to deliver that profit. Bear in mind, raising money is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. Pursue that end.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Thank you so much for staying with us on Early Exchange. Let's talk about housing, affordable housing for Nigerians. Now, according to statistics, Nigeria currently has about 28 million housing deficit. And to tackle that, President Bola Tinubu has launched 3,112 housing units in Abuja, which is meant to be part of the plan to launch 20,000 housing units across Nigeria. To talk about this, we have someone who is a real estate practitioner, the MD CEO, Realtors Billionaire Group, RBG. I just like the name, Realtors Billionaire Group. Okay, I hope that is also, that group is part of the plan to provide affordable housing, because when you say billionaire and affordable housing, I don't know if they go together in a sentence, but Otumba Gbemi Oyineyi will tell me all about that. Good morning and welcome to our studio. It's good to see you in person.
Well, thank you. Good morning. And it's nice having me in your studio, at least today, and Femi as well. Thank you very much. Well, I think the president has started on a good note, and that he's taken the bull by the horn to say we're not just going to, talk about housing, but that we're going to start and then we're going to do it. And I mean, for some of us who are even members of the All Progressive Congress, I mean, it's a man who talks and then you see action. And that's why even at the inaugural launch, he was there personally. And that apart from that, we also know him to be somebody who collaborates with, the private sector. I mean, that is the same template Lagos is wrong. And when it comes to housing, I mean, we know that it's not something the government alone can do. So there's a whole lot of participation, from the private sector that is also, needed. And that is how the president has started it. So the scheme actually has three different segments. You have the one, the luxurious apartment for, the high and mighty. And then you have the, rent to own, for middle class and all that. And then you have the low income one where it is also the private, developers that will work that out with the government, because government is also trying as much as possible to give them some soft landing, providing the lands. So for all over the states, the 36 states, you're going to have at least a minimum of maybe about 9,000 housing units. So meaning, and each one, we're going to have 1,000, per location. Meaning, for example, the one in the Bejuleki now, they've allocated about 2,500 housing units. Each state, if you divide the 50,000 housing unit budget for this first phase, meaning each state of the federation will have about 9,000 units, just approximately. So meaning in each state, they might distribute a minimum 1,000 per each slot, meaning you're going to have about 9 different locations in each state. And for each of them, the private developers are involved. Government is going to provide the land. Government is also going to allow the Federal Mortgage Bank to also come in to assist. And that is where the rent to own and then, provide single digit, mortgage for maybe the civil servants and all that, for them to be able to pay over, a period of over 20 years. So this, and then the president has also allocated in this year's budget, over 120 billion to kickstart. So it's not just, political talk or whatever. It's already, in fact, the construction has begun in Abuja. So it's not even something that, and then, the president, number one, chose, a renowned seasoned architect as, Minister of Works. So it's not just political, grandstanding and all that. And then he also brought in a team of, seasoned experts to work with him, who are not even members of the party. So it has nothing to do with, party issue. This is just to get housing templates, running again in Nigeria.
All right, let's check the table now, if I may use that word now, because there are some people who feel there's a political side to this. This project is that Renew Hope Housing Initiative. Now, with that brought politics into it, instrument or school of thought. Do you think this is just looking like one of the activities of the government that you were quick to start, but midway, it might not, get to the people who actually need this service? And then there's also concern about the affordability of this kind of housing projects. What's your take on this?
Well, if we look at the antecedent of the current president, he's never been a man who talks politics without action. I mean, and we can see that in the way Lagos, yes, to every president belongs to a party. So definitely, and every party has an agenda, you also want to market your party. You also want to sell your party. Yes, you also want to show that your party is, has good program for the people. But like I said, I mean, the antecedent of the current president is a man with, with successful deliverables that we can, count on. And I don't think we can actually count, several projects that he initiated and never completed. So, and like I said earlier, he has, number one, for the first time, we have, even if you look at the Ministry of Roads, he brought in an engineer, seasoned engineer, a former governor. Now for Ministry of Housing, he brought in a seasoned architect. So it already shows you a man who wants result. And also, don't forget, he has also told all the ministers, anyone that does not perform, he's going to sack. And of course, we know this is not a man who is afraid to sack anybody. If you're not performing, he will sack you. And nothing is going to happen because he wants a result. So it's not just about politics, but it's about result. And the current state of Nigeria, needs a renewed hope that you can't come again and do politics and just talk without result. We've gotten to that point where anything you say now must be backed up with action. And don't forget, another election will come very soon. So the president also needs this result, for re-election. The party also needs this result for re-election. But most importantly, Nigerians, we need Souq. Nigerians need this renewed hope. And then you mentioned the other part, affordability. The current scheme has put into place all of that consideration for the low-income men, for the civil servants. And that is why the minister has put into place 3 different templates. Number 1, there's a funding aspect of it. 2, there's a land aspect of it. And 3, there's the strategy aspect of it. In fact, the chairman of the strategy section of it is a seasoned man who has been in, and he's not even a member of the party. But the president brought him in because of his wealth of experience and his dedication to seeing that at least Nigeria can boast of, a good housing. And so, in terms of affordability, 1, part of the agreement with the private sector for those who are going to be allocated and brought on the scheme, when you build, for example, government is providing land to them at, very, very, close to nothing. Now, when they build, for example, they are allowed to also have sections for luxurious apartment. right? Now, from there, government knows that, oh, if you build a luxurious apartment for, say, 100 million, you can sell it for 200 or 300 million, depending on the location. Now, from that, there's an arrangement with the ministry. Out of it, you're going to build, you know, 1-unit apartment, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, that you are now going to subsidize. So for a 1-bedroom unit that you want to sell for, say, 15 million or 20 million, and then the arrangement is there that this will be made available for the citizen at, say, 3 million, 3.5 million. That is a huge, you know, so that template is already there. Because if the government is building houses and the masses cannot, you know, afford it or access it, then it's of no use.
All right, let's look at completion of this project, because this is not the first time that an administration will talk about providing affordable housing. But what we found in some cases, either it works in some areas or in some states, it doesn't work in others. It is started, it is not completed. Now, you seem very convinced about this project. How do you think it's going to run? Do you see completion of it, even though it's just been launched, in sight already?
It is very simple. You know, by the time you look at the template and the sincerity and the extent, I mean, number one, 120 billion that is already in the budget, it's nothing, you know, compared to what is needed. But already that tells you that the president has already empowered the ministry to what? To kick start. So it's not like they are waiting for any approval anymore to kickstart. Already funding to kickstart is approved. Is already in the budget. Budget is approved.
All right, let's talk about those who are qualified to access this kind of housing unit. I know for some civil servants it could be quite easier because directly from the source, you can deduct from the source. But for those who are not in civil service or in the informal sector, how can they benefit from this? Then the home to rent thing, how is it going to work out? Give us a background understanding to how the installment payments, or is it going to be monthly, is it going to be yearly, and then how is it going to turn out to ensure that these housing units actually get to the middle class or the low class, those who actually need this kind of service, especially the home to rent option?
Yeah, to start with the home to rent, the way it works, it's not new. This works basically, first is the salary earners, you know, those who earn salary. It's easier because all it's saying is that, okay, at least there is a proof that you can pay every month. So that structure is there. So anybody that has at least a good, you know, salary structure, a company and all that, that you work and then you can provide that, it makes it easier. Now for those in the informal, also, there is no way the bank will not come in anyway. And that is why this is, you know, like I said, even the minister, the template has a scheme, which is a funding. So they are looking at the funding aspect. And that is where the PPP actually comes in as well. And whether you like it or not, that is also where the federal mortgage is coming in and the banking sector. So, and like I said, to be honest with you, when a government wants to do something and wants results, they get it done.
All right, so this seems to be, or seems to mean boom for the real estate sector. Do you agree?
Yes, it is the necessary template and participation that is, I mean, globally accepted. So it's not new, but yes, I think this is I wouldn't say first time, but we are getting closer to working with government, particularly the federal government, in real estate development. And it also because it is clear to everybody, government cannot provide houses for everybody. is not possible. It's not realistic. So definitely the private sector must come to the table, and when it comes to housing, it's the real estate developers. And that is why they must work with us, we must work with them to make this a reality.
Let's talk about the issue of mortgage financing in Nigeria. You observe that on average Nigeria, if you need to build your house, you have to save money, build out of pocket, save your money over time for you to be able to afford to do that, unlike in the other client. Talk to us. What should be done differently, and what should the present government do to address the issue of mortgage financing, which is very critical?
Well, the push comes from the federal government. And like you've said, it's the Federal Mortgage Bank. And funding also is the issue, even for the Federal Mortgage Bank as well. But I believe, like I said, the president knows the problem and the challenges. And that is why the number one is funding. So the Federal Mortgage Bank, it said that will be refinanced, because it must have enough to be able to accommodate more people. Because if we are talking about 50,000 housing, in the next 4 years, the funding for it also, at least the one that will come from Federal Mortgage Bank, or the people that will be able to access, because also more and more, this means a lot more Nigerians will be informed or told that, Federal Mortgage Bank is available for them, for their use, particularly, the civil servants, and then, those in the structured, companies. This will have to be made for them.
All right. Now, do you think this will be enough to address the challenge of 28 million housing deficit? You mentioned earlier that government alone cannot provide housing for Nigerians. What kind of partnership will be needed to ensure that, if not totally meets the gap, but close it to a reasonable extent?
Again, you will also see that the government has set a target that they know is realistic. We can't wake up today and say we want to close the gap of 28 million in 4 years. No. But once the template is there, it's easier to continue. It's easier to grow from there. It's easier for other aspects of it. Don't forget that when there is a boom in the real estate sector, it creates millions and millions of jobs. A whole lot of economic activities also, develop spin from there, which will have ripple effect in the general, economy of the people. So if, for example, if you have just one location of 1,000 housing unit, do you know how many people that will employ? Do you know how many food sellers will be there? Do you know how many people will be selling drinks? Do you know how many, just at that, construction period alone, a whole lot of economic activities also go on there. And that will begin to make life easier for the people. And, economic activities will always have a ripple effect, that will help the people.
All right, the conversation is getting interesting, but we need to go on a break now. We'll be right back to discuss more. Stay with us.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history, an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also a home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo early into the Adeliji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. Souq Enlightenment.
My name is Dr. Rafiu Oladipo.
My name is Baba Jalal Repega.
I'm Reverend Julia Benite.
I'm Godio Didi.
My name is Professor Oladokun Sulaiman Olarawaju.
Souq News is on the ground, loading.
Very enlightening, very educative, and entertaining.
Thank you to Souq News.
So I'm happy that Souq TV has come into existence.
I'm happy to be here in the Souq News.
I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel and keep watching news that makes sense.
As Browning said, one's extension of one's reach should not exceed one's grasp, or what is heaven for. And I think Souq News is doing that.
Africa needs a voice of truth, and Souq News has become one of them. And get ready, get ready, get ready.
And keep watching.
Keep watching Souq News.
Keep watching Souq News. It's a place to be.
Keep watching Souq News.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, indeed, we're still shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. We've been looking at the housing units as launched by the president last week. He flagged up the construction of over 3,000 housing units in Abuja, which is just the pilot phase and is going to be extended to other parts of the country. We still have our special guest here with us. We still have Otumba Bemi Oyini with us. Glad to know you're still here with us.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Now, behind the scene, we made reference to, it's good to disclose it publicly now. We make reference to the Jakonde housing unit. I want us to look at what has happened to the housing unit over the years and then draw some lessons. Are you worried when you have this kind of initiative coming up about, you know, the quality of construction, then the issue of maintenance culture over the year? A good reference is that of Jakande. Some of the people who took over those buildings, you know, they pay little or no attention to the issue of renovation, or when it comes to the issue of attention to details. What should be the template when you have this kind of initiative being launched for people to have proper maintenance culture the moment these units are handed over to individuals?
All right, thank you very much. A lot has evolved since the era of Jakande. I mean, that's over 30 years ago. During the era of Jakande, there wasn't anything like estates, you know, concept in Nigeria as of then. And then even real estate developers were not into, you know, big time real estate construction or estate maintenance. It wasn't there. And that is a difference now that this project is bringing on board real estate developers. So it's not government just building now and, you know, handing over to people and everybody's just on their own. This time around, private, you know, practitioners are on board to ensure that it's not just to build and then, you know, you hand over, but that the estates are maintained and cultured. And then again, Nigerians, we've also evolved, even in your streets, even in your area. Everywhere is now an estate, because we've learned that government cannot maintain everywhere. And for you to have basic amenities, road, drainage, and things like that, you know, that the community must come together to maintain their estate. So that is now, you know, in operation, and that will make maintenance of these estates easier. And like I said, since the concept is already an estate concept, so it's easier for them to form an association for, you know, continuous maintenance and improvement and all that. So we're in a good position for better maintenance now.
All right, my question is in twofold. The first part, still on the maintenance of some of the already existing housing estates. There are some of them that are unoccupied, some of them started but never completed. Do you think it would be wise to finish some of those projects in addition to creating new ones? And then secondly, you talked about the different categories of homes that will be provided. There is a luxurious or the luxury homes. But do you think, if the plan is to provide affordable housing, why should government go into construction of luxury homes? Because those who will be able to afford it can by themselves provide those housings for themselves.
It's not the government building luxurious apartments.
But it's part of the plan.
It's the developers that would do that. Like I said, the developers are given three different structural development. One, the luxurious, all right, then the rent to own, and then the one that has to do with social responsibility, which is single units, you know, apartments, and all that. So it's not the government. What the government is doing at this phase is to kickstart. And like I said, I mean, a lot of private developers are going to be allocated lands, and they are the ones to build. Like I said, when you are allocated a land, for example, a land that costs, okay, now for example in Lagos, like the Bejuleki now, I mean a land with C of O that costs about 20 million, and then government is giving it to them at say 5 million as developers, and then they are building, you know, part of it, they are using it to build luxurious apartment. Government is saying out of that, you are going to use your excess profit when you sell to be able to subsidize the 1 unit bedroom apartment, 2 unit bedroom apartment, 3 unit bedroom apartment for the low income earners that ordinarily would sell for say 15 million. You are going to give it to them at say 3.5 million.
So
that is a kind of
like
structure.
The structure is to augment the other parts, which is
Thank
going
you.
to be
Exactly.
the low income.
Exactly. So the government has really taken its time. You know, like I said, bringing experts who have been in the industry and who can recommend what is feasible and realistic. You know, so that is the arrangement. Because if government is already giving you as a real estate, this is the arrangement. Okay, we are giving you, by the time you build the luxurious, how many units of luxurious apartment are you going to, you know, we know already how much you're going to make when you sell to, you know, the luxurious class. Out of these, you're going to subsidize the number of approved, you know, single units for the low income earners through the government. So that is how it's done.
Talking about this issue of subsidy, who is going to subsidize here? Let's make it clear.
The private developers are the ones. That is why there's a contract already, so that you're going to sign. So it's not word of mouth. So all that is already included. All that you know, calculations and all that, it's already in the template.
All right. In all this, I'm still worried about the plight of those who are in the informal sector, you know, because it's easier to capture those who are in the formal sector. You know, you have all their details, you know, in the custody of the government. Should there be an arrangement for those who are in the informal sector, like a special template for them that will cater for their peculiarities?
Don't forget that those in the informal sectors also have bank accounts. They run. I mean, you can't say you want to, it's not like the houses are going to be given free. It's just that they're going to be subsidized, you know, at least to be able to make it affordable. So even if you're in the informal sector, you're a businessman, you're a trader, you have business that you're doing. And the history is there, how much you have earned in the last 2-3 years, how much you can make now. That arrangement is going to be put in place. And the truth of the matter is that the government is not going to do something that's just going to be beneficial to those in the formal sector. No. Don't forget also, most of the party people are in the informal sector. So every class has been captured and how to bring them on board. But for me, the advice to government is to make it, information is key. Education is key. People need to know how to access these facilities and how to go about it. So I think that is where the orientation needs to come in. A lot of publicity needs to be done in each of the states. And then a system needs to be put in place to ensure that at least the ordinary citizen who want to can access them.
Talking about access, the plan also is to ensure that these new cities
continue, you know, on the basic. I mean, when you talk about an estate, the basic thing is a road, drainage, you know, electricity. Then, you know, if you want to put security, if it's an enclosed one. But maintaining it, of course, the residents must take ownership of that. And because, you know, we are coming in as private developers, these are the part of the education and then structure that we will ensure at least is put there before people start, you know, moving in.
Now, let's look at the plan also to construct about 2,500 housing units, looking at the location in Bejuleki in Lagos here. That place is looking like the hub for real estate in recent times. What's the point of attraction, Bejuleki?
Well, the point of attraction is very clear. Already, the Dangote refinery is operational now. The seaport is also there, right in front, and an international airport is also in the pipeline along the same route. So what else? I mean, that's enough to move anybody there. That's enough to develop and expand and, grow that axis, because all of those industries there need, serious accommodation.
Will all these factors not lead to a hike in the prices as well?
Naturally, real estate thrives on, development, and the prices definitely will be going up. Seriously. Why are people investing in the axis? It's because of that expectation. That's why we tell people buy there and just keep or hold, because we know that in a couple of 5 years, what you are buying for 5 million now will worth probably over 50 million. That's the normal trend. That's capitalism.
Now let's take this to other states. There are states where real estate doesn't really thrive because you do not have, maybe it's not commercial enough to attract a lot of persons. But with these housing units going to different locations, what would it mean for real estate in those states?
It also means good news. Today I can tell you there were states we tried to venture into just a couple of years ago that we had to, just stay back and abandon, because the system there, the economy there, and the standard of, real estate development there is not encouraging. So I can tell you this will encourage developers in those states and those axes, particularly local developers. It's an encouragement. Like I said, government is coming from two angles, which is funding to help in the area of funding, which is the main problem. So where civil servants or citizens now have more access to funding to be able to get into mortgage, why not? Developers are there. Developers are in every state. But funding is also their main problem, because the banks are not there to, easily do that. So this is going to help real estate development. In fact, the president's vision is to make Nigeria another, construction, country where huge construction, if you go to Ibejuleki now with what Dangote is doing there, it's huge. It's huge, massive. That when we talk about Africa, a project like that has not taken place in a short time.
Talking about construction, how has the hike in the cost of construction materials impacted the real estate sector? Is there anything that can be done about it?
Well, like every other thing in the economy, dollar is affecting pricing because we are, import dependent. And recently, the price of cement jumped from 5,600 to 7,000. So, and even the current project we have on, we had to just quickly stock cement just to, so it affects construction as well. But that is why I believe government needs to step in and then to be able to bring some, cushion. But again, I believe the central bank and the federal government is looking into what to do. And I think recently that's why the CBN has given instruction to banks to offload their excess, FX and all that, just to try to cushion, the rate. So I believe government must do something in that regard.
All right, let's wrap up with this because I'm wondering how you developers coping. Yeah.
Well, this is Nigeria, and we are Nigerians. And the fact that we're here means that we've said we're going to make it here. We're going to go through the tough time and then grow with it. There's no challenge, like I said earlier. I mean, all of us need to believe in Nigeria again. And that is where the renewed hope vision is not just about, you know, a party thing. It's also for individuals. Those of us who are here, those in diaspora must also still believe Nigeria will work. Nigeria will come back again and then be strong, and then a place where all of us, you know, will be proud of. So I believe we will get through this.
Talking about those in diaspora as we wrap up, one of the plans or hope of those who jackpot is to be able to own their own homes. And with a hike in the cost of building materials, there are different development or innovations in terms of building construction, low-cost housing, and all of that. Are there others that should, other type of housing that should be explored if the cost of cement is going up? And there are other ways to build houses that are also durable and standard.
Trust me, we are looking into all those options. We are looking into modern way of construction. We are looking, and if you actually check, even now, the size of buildings, particularly terraces and all that, is looking smaller and smaller.
But doesn't that mean problem for those who inhabit it?
No, but for me, it only means that we are maximizing every, you know, square meter we've got. So gone are those days that you just build house and then there's just one huge space or compound and all that. Now you have to value every square meter and then to maximize it. And that is why you would notice, even in Lagos and everywhere now, shared apartment, you know, people who have apartments here and then they travel out, they give out the apartment on short let. Everybody is thinking about commercialization. So we're evolving.
But isn't there a downside to that maximizing in quote of space? Because we're beginning to see hut-like structures.
Well, there's a standard to everything. With the fact that you are maximizing space does not mean that quality or the standard space for living and all that will be jeopardized. But I'm only saying that now we value space, we value land, we value every square meter.
All right, we just have to leave the conversation there. Otumba Agbemi, we have to thank you for your time. You know, this time I decided not to talk to us via Zoom, but to be in the studio, and we appreciate you for your time and commitment.
Thank you very much, Femi.
Yeah, this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Early Exchange. Housing for all. Yes, that's the goal of every Nigerian, every person to be able to own their housing, because when you see some persons on the streets, your heart goes to them because they do not have a good roof over their head. But the plan also in this housing plan of the federal government is to upgrade slum areas. So that means we should be able to see better cities all around Nigeria. We hope it comes to pass, and we hope that it comes to pass quickly so everyone can have a good roof over their head. We thank you so much again for your time, and we thank you too for watching Iron Blessing AJ. Please stay with Souq News. There are so many other programs for your viewing delight. Market Insight comes up at 11. There will be Souq Sports at noon. Souq Pulse comes up at 4 p.m. So much more. Just stick around.
It's also important to make reference to the demise of the GMD of Fastest Holdings. We'll talk about Herbert Wigwe, who died in a plane crash. I want to seize this opportunity to extend our condolences to the families, and we pray God will grant them this strength that is needed at this time, and we encourage Nigerians to also support the family at this trying time. On that note, we end Early Exchange today. Don't forget, we'll return tomorrow. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.